Okay, good evening, everybody. My name is Mark Fine. I am the chairman of the Montgomery County Commission on Common Ownership Communities. We're presenting another webinar this evening. This one is brought to you by Montgomery County Green Bank. Today's webinar is on solar energy. I am pleased to bring my friend back, Tom Dio. He is the CEO of Montgomery County Green Bank. He has been on several of our webinars, so he should sound familiar to most of you. Before we get going, just so everyone knows, if you have a question, please put it in the Q&A or put it in the chat window, and we'll be getting back to you with those questions once we're done. And if there's something that is drastic that you have to ask a question about, please use the raise hand function and we'll come right to you. Okay, with that, I will turn it over to Tom.
Great, Mark, thank you. And it's been a great partnership that we've had with you and the Commission on Common Ownership Communities. It's been a great opportunity for us to educate and inform the whole condominium and home ownership associations out there about what the Green Bank is and what we have to support these communities to, improve on energy efficiency and renewable energy. And we've done a number of these in the past, both in person at your board trainings, and then we've done a couple webinars here. And in the past, we've really focused in on the energy efficiency aspects because many of the communities out there were looking to try to address some aged systems. And what we wanted to do was turn the tide a little bit here and talk about renewable energies. There's a typing in the background. Maybe we could put on mute. Just to keep that background noise down would be great. Like I said, we were working on the energy efficiency side of, and a lot of that focused mostly on the condominium communities. And we wanted really to find an opportunity to talk to the home ownership associations and the community owners there, the homeowners there, about opportunities they might have. And in the past, when we would run those conversations, a lot of the questions that came out of the home ownership associations was around solar and how might they put solar on their homes. And so we wanted to bring a particular presentation to the common ownership communities and the home ownership associations in particular around that topic. So Mark, thank you for making this opportunity available to us and allowing us to bring this information out there. So for those who may not know, the Montgomery County Green Bank is a nonprofit entity that we were created by the county in order to bring more affordable capital financing to the energy efficiency renewable energy marketplace in Montgomery County. We only serve Montgomery County and we serve the businesses and residents in the county. And we do our job by partnering with other financial entities in the community to make that financing available. Even though bank is in our name, we're not a bank, we're a financial intermediary, we're a green bank, that's a particular type of an entity. And we use the capital that the county provided us in order to create more affordable financing that homeowners and businesses can take advantage of. And when we get into this presentation, you'll learn more about what that looks like for homeowners and renewable energy. But we've been in place for about 3 years. We're just now getting into our stride and getting more of our products out there and available. So this is a chance for you to hear about those and for us to sort of take the opportunity to be a service to the community and help educate on this subject. So if Cindy, you'll move to the next slide. So just to sort of cover what the agenda will be tonight. You've heard from Mark, thank you, and you're hearing from me. And then I'm going to turn this over to Paul Wick from Solar Energy World. Solar Energy World is a partner of ours. They've signed on to the financing product that you hear about later. We're doing that partnership since Solar Energy World is the installer that's working with the county solar co-op this year. And we wanted to partner with them and make our financing available to them. And we're grateful for that partnership. And we wanted to bring Paul on to sort of go through the the mechanics of solar, help understand what that is, but also the particulars of maybe a little around what it means for an HOA. And we're grateful for Paul to be on here. I'll introduce him in a minute, and bring that education and information to you. And then after Paul, I'll turn it over to Cindy Mccabe, who's the residential solar program manager for the Montgomery County Green Bank. And Cindy will walk through how to think about financing of renewable energy, solar on your property, and in particular what the Green Bank has to offer if that's an interest to those on the line. And then we'll go into a Q&A session at the end and answer any of those questions that you're sort of coming up with throughout the period. So I'm going to turn it over to Paul. Paul, like I said, is with Solar Energy World. They're a partner with us on the county co-op. And they're the ones out there working with all the members to help them understand what they can do and how they might finance or fund that, and how the Green Bank can be a support to that. We're grateful for that partnership, and we're grateful for Paul to be here. He's really here to educate you as a representative of that whole solar energy world, and use that depth of experience they have to bring that to you. Paul calls himself a solar teacher. I like that language. It's very nice. He was a teacher, so he's taking his teaching from biology over 10 years and bringing that into this world and helping be a teacher here. And we're grateful for that. He spent the last 2 years working in the solar energy and installing, and he's very proud of having helped hundreds of families install solar and help save energy and help the environment. And it appears most recently he did it for himself. So congratulations, Paul, on your own personal installation there. He lives in Brookville, Maryland with his wife and his 2 kids who were born here in Montgomery County. So we're grateful for all the Montgomery County residents that we can bring into this. So Paul, I'd like to turn it over to you and take us through this, and then I'll come back and just sort of introduce Cindy when we get there. So Paul, to you.
All right. Thank you so very much, Tom, for that warm introduction. It's greatly appreciated. So yeah, we're just here to teach about solar. And I love this job because I've always helped people. And prior to being a teacher, I actually was a hydrologist with the state of Maryland, dealing with groundwater contamination. So I've always helped the residents of the state and Montgomery County citizens. And this is just a further extension of that. And so solar is great because it can help anybody who owns a home. And it's just fundamentally perfect for homeowners because we get to reduce your bill. And then some homeowners don't care about their carbon offset, but in reducing everybody's bill, we actually make our air much cleaner. So it's a big win-win in my book. I was a hydrologist, then I taught biology, and we did the carbon footprint, and now I get to teach about solar, and I'm thankful to meet with all the homeowners every night and with all the attendees tonight. Okay, Cindy, next slide, please. Okay, so most people are unaware that 50% of your household income is spent to produce power for your house. And in that, 90% of that power is from fossil fuels. So in my house, I just went solar. My footprint is about 12 cubic tons a year when I didn't have solar. Now I've reduced those 12 tons because my house is very unique. I'm able to offset 9,600 kilowatt hours, and that's 100% of our energy. We're very conservative in our energy use. We have a family of 4, as Tom said. And so the big thing is reducing that carbon footprint while saving money. And so when I was teaching biology, my students used to do projects on their carbon footprint, and they'd realize how much energy they were using. And they're like, oh my gosh, Mr. Wicks, we're all gonna die. We're all gonna die. Guys, we're not all gonna die. We are far cleaner today than we were 30 years ago. And 30 years ago, we are far cleaner than we were in the 1850s. So the best thing about going solar, we're going to improve the environment while helping you save money. Next, please. So in going green and going solar, we can lower your bill minimum 20%. And who wouldn't take a 20% off coupon and use it if they could every month on their electric bill? And that's the minimum 20%. On my house, we're offsetting 40% of the electric costs because I actually didn't have the money to buy the solar. So I did a power purchase agreement, and that's where another company pays for the solar, but you get it at a reduced rate. And so in year 1, we're going to save 40% on my electric bill. And that 40% is going to help for my son to go to college, help pay towards his college thing, but also reducing that carbon footprint. And over time, the graph on the left shows that the savings goes up over time. And if you purchase it, well, then you're offsetting 100% of that electric cost. And then you're turning a debt into an investment. And that's where Green Bank comes in. They are a really great program. And what makes them the best is many solar providers have to charge a large origination fee, where there is a slight fee to go with Green Bank, but it's very minimal. And you're getting the biggest savings right from the get-go, and you're turning a debt into an investment. Next slide, please. So now we're just going to talk about solar, and we're going to learn a little bit. We want to put the panels up on your roof, and we want them on the sunny side of your house, whether it's the front, the back, the east, the west, left side, right side. Wherever the sun's going to hit the panels, that's where we're going to produce the most energy. And that sun's going to hit the panels, and then it's going to follow down and go to your inverter, and the inverter is going to switch that from DC to AC power. Everything in your house runs on AC power, and the power that you don't use will then go to your meter and get pushed out onto the grid. And you're pushing power out on the grid all day. Today, my system produced an extra 25 kilowatts that I didn't use, and that's gone out on the grid. And my system is overproduced this month and last month combined. Pepco right now owes me 450 kilowatt hours. They owe me 450 credits, and I'll be able to use those when the sun's at a lower level later in the year in November, December, and January, and that's going to help me carry me through the winter. Next slide, please. So any home is a good home for solar, just as long as it's not buried in trees. The house on the right is a little bit better than the house on the left. Both of those happen to back up to the south. The solar on my house is on the front of my house because that's the part that faces the street that the sun hits. And then the one side of my house, because I live in a split level in Brookville, on my west side, I have some panels as well, but the vast majority you can see from the street side on my house, but that gives me the greatest offset, that reduces my carbon footprint, and it lowers my bill. So it's just, you don't know. We're able to offset 96% on my house, but every house is unique to themselves and the power that they use. But we can put some system and reduce your carbon footprint, and then you can either own that system or pay less for that electricity. Next slide, please. So the important thing about HOAs, Maryland does support solar installations with HOAs. And it's important to note, I am not an attorney, nor do I play one on TV, but we're going to help you review those laws with your HOA. And we're going to work with your HOA. So I've had hundreds of customers go solar. I have not had one system blocked by an HOA as of yet, knock on wood. But my company installs thousands of systems every year, and it's very rare that the HOA stops it from being installed. But we're here to work with HOAs and really make a partnership. The only case where it may not be able to go forward is a historic district, but we do have some panels in historic districts. We'd like to talk to you and see what we can do. Next slide, please. So the net meter, and this is what most people do not know. They always go, oh, I need a battery, I need a battery. Well, batteries cost tens of thousands of dollars. And if you wanted to have a bunch of batteries to power your system at night, you need 6 or 7 batteries, maybe 8 to 10. And in those things, batteries don't work with things called pumps. So they won't work with a heat pump. They won't work with a well pump. So batteries are great to provide light and electricity and maybe watch a TV show or two, but it's not going to provide those big things. So we don't like to use batteries. We like to push it right out on the grid. So I'm pushing my power out on the grid all day today. And now that the sun is set, now I'm pulling back those extra credits. And so my meter spins backwards during the day. And at night, I'm just pulling back the credits I produced during the day. And the nice thing most people don't realize is my house is a microgrid. I'm actually pushing the power out and I'm making my neighborhood stronger. If the power plant goes down, the more houses that go solar, they're going to keep it from having a rolling blackout and the cascading effect. When all the power goes to the next power plant in line, the more houses that go solar, the more we can support the power plants. Next slide, please. So tax credits, there are huge incentives if you want to purchase, and Green Bank can help you, and they're going to talk all about that. So right now, I would actually had to have you signed by September 1st in order to give you that 26% tax credit. So to install solar, no matter who does it, any reputable company is going to take a minimum of 12 to 16 weeks to get you installed. Everybody takes about 4 months to get installed, and that's because there's a lot of permits. So if you sign up with me today or another company, we're going to get you installed in next February or March. And that's a wonderful time to be installed because you still will qualify for that 22% tax credit. But the best thing is if you get installed in March, well, we're turning you on in April, right when the sun's at its peak, when solar is its best. And then you get the best usage of all that spring credit that helps carry you through the little deficit. There's a little slight deficit in July and August because you use a lot of power. You're producing a ton of power, but you use a lot of power with that AC. Well, I ran a slight deficit of 50 kilowatt hours in July and then another 70 in August. But last year, my August bill was $267. And this August, my bill was $20, a substantial savings. And the funny thing is, when I first asked my wife if she'd like to go solar, she said no. And I'm not here to sell solar to people that don't want solar. I want to help people. Well, when we got that bill of 267 and we're on a fixed budget because she is a teacher, I was a teacher, she goes, "Would you talk to me about solar?" I said, "I'd love to." And then when we actually sat down and talked at Thanksgiving, she goes, "We're going to save money." And I said, "Yes, dear." And she goes, "Why didn't you make me do this 9 months ago?" And you never try to make people do things that they don't want, but you try to help people. So we're here to help you whenever you're ready. Next slide. So according to Zillow, not me, but according to Zillow, homes that have solar sell 20% faster and for 4% more. And Zillow has a rating on their thing. When you're looking at your house, they'll give you a solar score for your home. And according to the American Association of Appraisers, not Paul Wicks, but the American Association of Appraisers, if I can save you $1,000 a year in electricity, it increases your home's value by $20,000. If I can save you $1,500 a year in electricity, well, now I've increased your home by $30,000. So millennials love to buy houses that are solar. So we ask that you market your home as a green home. And because they know they're buying a house essentially with a gas pump, but this is better than a gas pump because it's reducing the carbon offset. And in some cases, we're able to provide enough solar power that a person can have an EV car. And in having an EV car, not only are they reducing their carbon footprint of their home, like I do 12 tons, but now they're reducing that carbon footprint of their gas vehicle as well because they've gone to an EV vehicle powered by their solar on their house. So they're further reducing that carbon footprint. And they're taking another debt, their gas bill, and turning an investment. And that's how Rich Dad, Poor Dad, my son read me that, said, "This is what you do, Dad. You take debts and you turn in an investment." And that's where Green Bank wants to help you guys out by taking a debt and turning an investment. Next slide. So if you decide to move forward, you want somebody to come out to talk to you about solar. Well, any reputable company should be able to do a virtual meeting in today's COVID world. And when I go into a homeowner's house, what I say is I'm going to start by asking you a few questions. Once I ask you a few questions, then we're going to flip over to a Zoom meeting. I'm going to tell you a little bit about our company, who we are and what we do. Then we're going to go over your electric bill, your usage, and how much you're getting charged. Then we're going to go over the design. And lastly, pricing. The whole thing's going to take me 45 minutes from beginning to end, an hour at most, but I will stay and answer questions. I had one young lady ask me questions for 4 hours, and my job was to teach about solar. She never bought solar, but she learned a lot about solar. And in the end, her husband didn't like it and didn't want to use it. And that's where, we're just here to teach you. And if it makes sense, we'd love to help you. But the whole thing should take about an hour, and they shouldn't really push you on night one. Oh, you have to sign this. You have to sign this. Because if the science is there, you'll see that it makes sense to move forward. And we're really there to meet your needs whenever you're ready. Next slide, please. So once we decide to move forward, we're going to send somebody out to your house, and they're going to actually do an inspection of your house. They're going to come down, look at your electrical panel, make sure it's up to code, make sure it could handle a solar array. Then we're going to go up in your attic space, take pictures of your attic. We're inside about a half hour, and then we're going to actually get up on your roof and take a true measurement of your roof. A lot of companies will try and do measurements just from the sky and say, we've got it, we've got it. Well, the problem is when they come out to install it, they didn't come out and take an actual measurement. The panels that they're projecting may not fit. So we want to be precise and accurate, not optimistic. And when we talk about optimistic, some of them, if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is too good to be true. And so you should get a couple consultants. And when you come out, you will get to decide which company works best for you. And I know with my company, we're going to give you an actual hard number, and our engineering department then is going to verify that. And we usually guarantee that we're going to be within 10% of the number I give you on night one, because we're going to be realistic, not optimistic. And if we're not within that 10%, the customer may choose to exit the contract at no penalty. It's there to benefit the homeowner, not to force them, oh, you're trapped now, you sign this contract. No, no, no. We want to meet your needs. We're here to help everybody go green if they want to, but mainly help them save money, not hurt them. Next slide. So when it's at engineering and that design comes to you, you're going to get that design. We're filing for all the rebates, all the tax incentives. We're there to do everything for you. We're really turnkey. We're taking care of this. And that's what you need to be careful is when they give you a price, make sure it includes all these extra things that we do. Don't let them do add-on, because then you thought you were getting a great price and then there were some adders hidden. So when I give you a price, that is the price for the solar array, and there's nothing extra. That's completely installed. Next slide, please. So once we get to this point, we've got our permits. It's taken our 12 to 16 weeks. We've got all the permits in hand. Now we're coming out to do the install. I've heard horror stories with customers that it took them a month on their roof. They were on the roof for 3 months. My company, well, the longest installs typically is 5 days. My house was installed in 2 days. And if you want to meet with me, I can show you the slides of day 1, the slides of day 2. It's very neat, very orderly. It didn't disrupt our household, and they take great precautions in to make it quick, convenient, and not to interfere with the homeowner. Next slide. So once we're installed, the county needs to come and inspect our work. And so we send a truck out front. There'll be a truck parked out front to meet the county inspector, or to meet the city of Rockville inspector, or to meet the federal county inspector, and to walk them through the system. If they have any questions, our experts there to handle those questions, because maybe they haven't done a lot of solar, and part of our job is to educate the inspector as well. And then once it passes inspection, then we get to apply for that net meter. Again, that's what allows the power to go out on the grid. So when you produce extra power, you have a net meter, and it actually spins backwards. Well, Pepco or Potomac Edison or somebody else will have to bring out your net meter. So you cannot turn on your system until that net meter's installed on your house. When my net meter was installed, I was able to turn mine on. And on day 1, I was at 2 kilowatts, and then it actually went backwards, and we were producing energy. And then Pepco was able to lower my bill substantially with that net meter. That net meter on average takes 2 to 4 weeks to get. So the solar's installed, it's going to be about a month. Mine was installed on June 1st. I actually was able to turn my system on July 1st, and I've been producing energy ever since then. Next slide. And any reputable company, and this is the most important thing, guys, that a lot of companies were going to charge you for the monitoring. That should be included in their price, okay? Make sure that they're giving you the monitoring, that they're taking care of all these incentives for you, and that they're going to be with you for the entirety of the system. And that's a nice thing, is they can be a great guy on night 1, but are they going to be there for you, for your system, for the full 25 years of the warranty? Because many of these things have a 25-year warranty, and they should be able to go through what does and doesn't. And most of these systems are going to last you 50 years. They're going to last much longer than you're anticipated. And so you want to be able to call that company and make sure they're able to come out and do the work that you need. So next slide. I will take any questions once Cindy has finished her part, and we're looking forward to answering them, guys. Thank you so much.
Good. Paul, thank you for that. I think we will sort of wait to the end for the questions. I will just address one that seems to be out there. This presentation is really targeted to the homeowners associations and those that have single family homes, be them detached, attached. Questions have come up around condominiums in high-rise buildings. Those work differently when you're in multi-unit properties than individual homes. And we're going to have a future presentation that'll deal with solar for condominium, where you have multi-units in a building versus individual homes. So this one in particular was oriented to the HOAs where it's single family ownership, fee simple ownership. So just wanted to clarify that to make sure, but we're not, we oriented this one there. We will have one in the future that we'll talk to how to think about solar for condominiums, how they think about solar for their common areas, as well as how they might think about solar that the unit, the homeowners in the individual units could partake too. So I just wanted to make sure that that was covered, because it seemed like there were a few questions on that. And then there were a couple questions around, what if there's a common sort of activity like the lights that the homeownership association is responsible for. Reach out to us, send me an email, and we can talk to you about that. That's a different sort of approach because it would be at the association level. So again, this is just for the individual homeowners. So I'm now going to sort of hand it over to Cindy Mccabe, who's our residential solar manager. Cindy's been on board just about 6 weeks now. but we're grateful and pleased to have her come on board. She spent a number of years working both as a residential solar sales manager with Tesla in the state of Maryland, and then she also worked with a particular installer, Ipsen Solar, where she was the residential and commercial solar project manager. So Cindy comes both with the understanding of how, from a sales perspective of and how financing worked, and from the sales of it, to also then how, in the space that Paul was just speaking to, and sort of having learned in that space as well. So we're grateful to have her here. She's also a proud resident here right in Rockville, and she's got 2 rescued cats, and she's also fostering dogs from a local animal shelter. But on this presentation, I think she's going to focus in on the solar financing and how to think about it. How do you think about paying for these systems, and then what the Green Bank financing looks like in order to support it. And then at the end, we'll come back and Cindy will lead on the Q&A session. So Cindy, I turn it over to you.
All right, well, thanks, Tom. Mark, thanks for having us here. And Paul, that was a wonderful presentation. Very well said. Thanks for that. And basically, I'm just going to go over a little bit about how you can finance your solar project. So let me get started here. Tom went over a little bit about what is the Montgomery County Green Bank, but just a little recap in case anyone joined later on. So we are a nonprofit, mission-driven organization chartered by the county, but we are an independent 501c3 corporation. Our mission is to accelerate investment in energy efficiency and renewable energy in the county. So in order to be eligible for our programs, you do need to be a Montgomery County homeowner. You must own and reside in your home. So what are your options for solar systems? Paul got into this a little bit. I've divided it into 3 categories. So the first one being owning your system and paying for it with your own funding. And the second middle column here would be owning your system and financing it. And the third one being a rental option. And you could either use a power purchase agreement or a PPA like Paul did, or you could go for a lease option. So I'll just go through those quickly. For the ownership option with cash, you would own and insure your solar system. It would be part of your home. You may ask some questions about insurance. So the insurance on a solar system is normally a small adder. If you want to, we can go into details, but usually what I recommend to homeowners is to contact their homeowner's insurance to ask them if the price of their solar system would already be included in their current policy, or if they would need an adder and how much it might be. You would pay for your solar system up front with your own funding, and you, with the help of your solar representative, would apply for and receive tax credits and other incentives if applicable. So the reason I put if applicable is because I'm not an accountant, and I want you to check with your accountant to see if you qualify for any tax credits and how you should best go about applying for those. For the financing of a solar system with ownership, you would own and insure your system, the same as with cash. It would be part of your home, but you would pay for your system upfront by taking out funding from a loan. You would be paying predictable monthly payments, and you would again apply for and receive tax credits and other incentives that normally people use to repay that loan. Again, check with your accountant to see if you're eligible. You do have to have some amount of tax liability. And I'll go into the incentives in the next slide. The third column, the third category would be renting your solar system either with a PPA or a lease. So first step would be to sign the contract for 20 years. Normally it's 20 years, but it can vary slightly from installer to installer. And the solar installer in this instance would insure your system. So you do see the difference there. There would be no upfront costs paid for by the owner, which is great. And there would be lower monthly payments. The payments would either be according to the production of the system, which is how a PPA works, or would be on a predetermined payment schedule, which is how a lease would work. So if you want to know more about that, go ahead and put your questions in the chat box and we can address them after I finish. We'll go into our Q&A. So how do the incentives work? Again, I have 3 columns here. The first one is actually the largest. That's the federal tax credit. And you take this credit when you file your taxes. So for example, if you were to install your solar system, I think Paul mentioned for an example in March, turning it on in April, you would be installing the system in the year 2021. And when you do your taxes for that year, it will already be 2022. Don't forget. So when you file your taxes for that year that the solar system was installed, the credit would reduce the amount that you owe in income tax dollar for dollar. So I have 22% because, as Paul mentioned, it's a little bit late in the year to get installed this year. So the tax credit will be 22% of the total project costs. And I will go through an example in just a moment. If you wait and you want to think about it a little bit, if you install in 2022, the tax credit will bump down to 10%. So this is a great time to think about it and see if this is a good time for you. As I mentioned, consult your accountant for your tax liability. The next column would be the Maryland Clean Energy Rebate. This is $1,000 for a solar system that's up to 20 kilowatts. For our townhouse owners, a 20 kilowatt system should be what you would get, but you would check with your installer to see what they propose based on a site survey. 20 kilowatt is a nice size system, so you should be able to get that on a townhouse. But again, check with your installer. I do mention here to check the Maryland Clean Energy Rebate website for availability because it can be subject to caps, and the project is subject to termination. So just check the availability on that one. And then we have SRECs, or solar renewable energy credits. For every 1,000 kilowatts you generate, you earn 1 SREC, 1 credit. The last I checked, which was the other day, the 1 credit was worth $78. The market can fluctuate, and the program is also subject to termination. Probably likely not this year or the next year, but it could be terminated in the coming years. So we just want you to check for program availability. So what are SRECs? They're basically carbon offset marketing credits so that solar system owners can help utilities meet their renewable performance standards. There also can be known as carbon credits. So basically, with a solar system, you are using clean energy to generate your electricity, and you're swapping that or selling it, and another company that might not be using clean energy would have to buy that credit from you. So it's a market. Again, any questions, go ahead and pop them in the chat and we'll go over those. So what does the Green Bank do? You might be asking, how does the Green Bank come into all of this? So what the Green Bank does offer is a program called Clean Energy Advantage, and it is a loan program to support renewable energy projects. We support loan sizes up to $50,000, and we have 2 types of loans available. And just to note, you can combine the 2 types of loans together, which is our most popular option. So the short-term loan covers the investment tax credit. It's designed, I'm hearing some typing now. Everybody can go ahead and pop them on some cells on mute. Great, thank you so much, I appreciate it. So the short-term loan is designed to cover the amount of the tax credit that you will get back. So it's dividing the loan into 2 so that you're able to easily pay off the portion of the project that you will get returned to you in the form of a tax credit, and you can pay it off, and then you can cover the rest of the balance of the system project, the cost of the project, with a long-term loan. We do have special interest rates for Montgomery County residents only. So for our short-term and our 12-year options, the rate starts at 4.49. That's for best credit, and it goes up to 6.09. For our 15-year loan, the rate is going to start at 4.74, and you can see the range here up to 6.34. And then our 20-year option is going to start at 4.49%, and it's going to go to 6.59%. Your payments are fixed for the term of the loan, which is great. And the biggest difference here about our financing, as Paul mentioned, alluded to it a bit, is that there are no lender financing fees, which can be a percentage of the total of the project with other lenders. There are no prepayment penalties. Another great thing is that there's no lien placed on the property. The loan is secured with the UCC1 fixture filing, and the minimum credit score is 640. And we will be sending this, as Mark mentioned, we'll be sending all this out. I know it's a lot of information on one slide, or we'll be posting it on your website, I think you said, Mark. So just a little summary of the different options for terms. The short-term loan, basically you take it out for the amount that you expect to get back with the tax credit, and you pay it off in one easy payment at the end of the loan term, either 12 months or 18 months. Now you might ask, well, how do I decide if I need 12 months or 18 months? So basically, it depends upon what time of the year you install your solar system. If you install your solar system, for example, in January, well, let's think about when you expect to get the tax credit back for that year. So you wouldn't be doing your taxes until sometime between January, February, March. Maybe you wait until April. You wouldn't get your tax credit back until that summer. So for that install time frame, you would pick the 18-month option. If you install next summer, you probably would be able to get your tax credit back by next summer. So that's 12 months. So you just look at what time it is in the year. And for our long-term loan, you have predictable payments for each month for either 12 years, 15 years, and our 20 years. Didn't get on this slide, but as I mentioned, we do have a 20-year option. All right, so how does it work? There are a little more details I just want to go over. What are the eligible projects? So we know solar panel systems are involved, of course. Paul touched a little bit on energy storage. So if you did want to opt for a backup battery or multiple backup batteries, you could include that in the financing that we offer. You could also include an EV charging station, electric vehicle charging stations. I am seeing more and more Teslas on the road these days. Our lender partner is Clean Energy Federal Credit Union. So it is important to note that we do not lend the money directly. It's lent through our lending partner, not through the Green Bank. Tom touched on that a bit. There is an online application through our website to make sure that you're eligible. As I mentioned, you have to be a county resident. You have to live in your home and own your home. And once you pass the eligibility screening, which is quick, we do redirect you to the lender portal, which would be the Clean Energy Credit Union. A couple more details about how it works. This financing is designed so that you use the loan to pay anywhere up to 100% of the total system, so that you don't have to pay anything out of pocket if you don't want to, or if you can't. I mentioned regular monthly loan payments. And the payment does not fluctuate with energy generation as it does with the rental option. So that's important to note. You would sign a contract with a solar installer who would install the system. And you would be responsible for maintenance in this case. Now, Paul can tell you the maintenance on the solar system is almost nothing. There's really not that much you can do, but Paul, I'll let you talk about that after. And you would be insuring the system. As I mentioned, it may be a small adder, but check with your homeowner's insurance policy. One thing to note is that the owner is responsible for the replacement of the inverter after 10 years, unless it's covered in your contract. So you want to check with your solar representative on inverter replacement. But we wanted to just mention that after 10 years, those inverters that they use right now might be good for about 10 years. You may need to replace that inverter, which is the brains of the solar system. I've seen them for less than 2,000, but we wanted to err on the side of caution and give you a higher figure just to be safe. So we have an example here, and this beautiful picture is actually an installation from Solar Energy World. So that's great. Isn't it lovely on a nice townhouse? Very clean lines. The size of the array in the example that we're using, so this might not be exactly the same as the house, but that's just a picture of visual. The size of the array in the example we're going to look at is 9 kilowatts, and that can generate up to 12,000 kilowatt hours per year. The project is estimated to cost $29,250, which is a random number. But that's what we're using for this example. The net metering benefit for every year is approximately $1,400. So that's how much you're getting your bill cut down, and that's approximate. The investment tax credit is $6,435 in this example, and the Maryland Clean Energy Rebate would be $1,000. And then we're estimating that the value of the SREX is $600 to $850. This is just a quick breakdown so that you can see what it might look like. I'm pretty sure I actually calculated the investment tax credit at the 22%, but you can feel free to go ahead and check my math. Now let's look at a financing example. I know that some of you might want to talk numbers. You might be a numbers person. So here is an example. Here we have a short-term loan, and here we have a long-term loan, and then we look at the benefits. So for the short-term loan, as I mentioned, it's designed to cover the investment tax credits. The project cost is $29,250. The 22% tax credit, $6,435. And then we have the amount of the loan that you're going to take out, $7,600. The amount that you pay off, $7,990. So if you subtract 6,435, you have a one-time out-of-pocket of $1,165. So that's the difference there. What you can also do is reduce the amount of the short-term loan so that it's exactly $6,435, and then your out-of-pocket net would be $0, and your installer would work that out with you. So it's not a problem. For the long-term loan, we have an example for 12 years. The same project costs, it's the same project we're looking at, but this time we're including the state $1,000 rebate. We're putting the balance here, $20,650. We have the annual amount of loan payments, so you'd be paying $190 a month. And you see the star here, that's using a 5% rate. So it's not the lower end or the higher end, it's pretty much in the middle. And then your annual savings is from the last example, how much your bill goes down, $1,400. And then the amount of your SREX, I put them a little bit on the lower end at $60 a megawatt. So that's $600. So your out-of-pocket net is $280 a year. Let's look at it over 25 years real quick. So we have the loan payoff amount difference at $390. We have the amount of loan payments for the long-term loan at $27,360. And then if you look at your annual savings, this is a big number right here, $35,000 from net metering. We look at the amount of SREX you'd be able to sell in 10 years at $6,000. And the out-of-pocket net is going to be negative $13,250. So let me ask all of you that are watching right now, what would you do with an extra $13,250? Yeah, you can think about that. So thank you so much for having me go through this with you. Quite an honor. And we will now switch it over to Q&A. And I will go back to Mark.
Well, I have one for you or Paul to start. The question is, will you be discussing the options to store energy in a battery like Tesla? That's why I'm saying you too. Like Tesla, to use as a backup system. Who wants to field it? Paul, you or Cindy?
It's up to you, Paul. You want me to take it?
Sure, ladies first, and I'll take the next. Oh, and I can chip in at the end if you need.
All right. So will we be addressing backup? So I can address backup power in lots of different ways. Should we address it in financing or how it works, how much it costs, why do people get it, or all of the above?
So why don't you start with, what's the purpose of a battery? How does it work with the solar? How does it help the household think about resiliency, and then how does it factor into the financing? Why don't you go that way?
Paul?
I'll jump in to start with. So generally, the way I approach batteries with my homeowners is I know that battery technology is improving tremendously. So I try not to sell homeowners batteries today. Some homeowners push me because, you know, there's medical reasons and they need certain medical devices and need a battery backup, and that's understandable. But a lot of people want batteries to run their well pump or to run their heat pump. Well, batteries aren't generally going to do that unless you get a whole house battery backup, and you're looking in the range of anywhere from $20,000 to $30,000 for that. And in that price, you can get your whole solar done for your house. And in the future, in 3 years, those batteries might be 1/3 of that cost. So we really try to save our homeowners as much money as possible. We're really not, you know, pushing batteries. We can do a battery. We have the ability. We'd love to help you. But, you know, we also know like a large flat screen TV 15 years ago was $7,000. And now you can walk into Costco and get a very similar TV for $400. And, you know, the amount that your power goes out, there's a better way you can spend that $10,000. You can stay at the Four Seasons for the one night, swim in their pool, have breakfast in bed, and still be, you know, anywhere from $8,000 to $17,000 ahead of the game. And that's the way we generally do it. And then I'll kick it over to you, Cindy.
Okay.
Paul, that's great. A couple things I just wanted to add is some people are interested in energy independence. So I don't want to depend on my utility provider to give me electricity. I want to use my solar system, right? I want to save all of the electricity that my solar system produces. And I also want to be able to have my own electricity and use my solar system in the case that the grid goes down. So I think that it's up to the customer. You know, if they want to make that investment, there are some options. So there is partial home backup that you can do depending upon the size of your solar system. So if you have a big solar system and you only want to have one battery, it does run into some problems about the inverter and splitting the system in two. It's actually 2 installations. So they would back up half of your house, which is most people like to think of it as emergency backup. So what do you need in an emergency? Of course, you want to have your water, but it's up to you to decide what's an emergency for you. Some people may just want to have the air conditioning on. Maybe the air conditioning is urgent for them. Everybody usually wants to be able to charge their electronics, right? So what you do is you talk to your installer, and you can talk to the person that comes to your house to do the survey about what you might be interested in backing up in your main electric panel, which loads you want to have no matter what, and how much that might cost. So there's a calculator that will show you how many batteries. If you look it up online, there are several sites that can calculate the number of batteries you might need. And as Paul mentioned, the dollar signs do go up as you add batteries. So if you want to back up your whole home, it's going to be expensive. But depending upon the size of your system, you may be able to do some partial backup.
Okay. All right. I'm going to start rolling through these. We have 38.
So Paul, Mark,
38.
so Mark, there was a follow-on about batteries for condominium communities, and I would say that, as I mentioned, you know, we're going to be talking about condominiums. They function differently, and batteries and for a condominium can be done for both resiliency and also to manage your demand load. But there are also other backup systems that condominiums can think about in terms of cogeneration systems and stuff that actually, you know, are those type of resilient mechanical systems to put in place to provide such backup. But again, condominiums operate differently, and we'll focus on that when we get to condominiums.
Some of them, when we get to them, I'm going to mention at the other seminar. Now, I mentioned earlier for Ken, both the MP4 and the slides of this presentation will be posted on the CCOC website under the training and webinar section. You'll see them there. All the previous webinars are there now, so it should be posted by Friday, I hope at the latest. Now there's a question from Tim. Will there be a discussion on community solar and or off-site solar options for master metered HOAs?
So
I can
again,
take that,
that's a
Tom,
different,
unless-
go ahead, Cindy, take it.
I'm sorry, Tom. What I was going to mention is that I can talk about community solar all night if you want, but why don't we promise to do another webinar on it, and then everyone who's interested, you can be sure to
'Cause
tune in and
common
learn all
area,
about that.
common area is a whole nother elephant.
Right, right.
Okay, our HOA installation capacity limited to demand of common area property. We have separate meters for each unit and a meter for the common property. It looks like they're asking what your capacity limit is. I'm thinking it's going to be the space that you can put on each home, but the common area is something totally different. You're going to have to see what your governing documents say you can do, and if the association can do it. The homeowner can't do it. It would be the association doing it.
Right. So the commercial, the association and those things of which the association is responsible for are commercial, and that operates, and we have other products to support that activity, and we're happy to talk to you if you want to talk about that. But that's the association level's responsibility, and whether it's done through renewables or through other, using LED lighting on the street lights, that's a responsibility. We were just supporting one association that's going that route, and they're spending, $40,000 and getting $10,000 back in incentives in order to do that. And in 3 years, their loan to cover that will be paid off, and they'll get another 8 years worth of benefit out of it. So there are strategies for handling the association level ones that operate differently, and we're happy to sort of help you with those and think those through. Just send us an email. We'll get in touch with you. But that's on the commercial meter, which is a different subject than today.
Now, anybody that's wanting to talk about commercial for the associations, either condominium or HOA, and they're talking about the board wanting to do something for the common elements, Tom is at T as in Tom, DODEYO at mcgreenbank.org. As soon as I get done with this, I will put it into the chat. Or John, if you do me a favor, if you could take his email and put it down into the chat. It's also up on the screen right now. Darlene, same thing regarding master meters for the mutuals, the condominiums. We're going to be setting up a second session talking about the condos. So look for that. We'll be having that done sometime in the very, very near future. John's asking if you could expand a little bit more on microgrid. Paul?
Sure.
Okay.
So every house that goes solar, that they're creating a little mini microgrid. And so in the summer, or right now today, I'm pushing more power out of my house than I'm using. So that's supporting my neighbors' houses. They're using the power that's coming from my house, which actually supports the neighborhood. But more so in the case of California, they have their rolling brownouts, they have their things. So there's a lot of solar in California, and all those homes with solar are actually help support the neighborhood for those that don't have solar. And then it makes it less likely for the power plant to fail and then cascade. It's a support mechanism. California still does have brownouts and rolling blackouts because they've tried to go all solar for all of the devices and that they use a ton of power out there, and so they're working their way through, supplement as much as they can, but then maybe needing a little more, and the grid needs to support all that solar. So often in California, there's neighborhoods you're limited in your house to how much solar you can get. And so on my house I have 29 panels, and so I have an 8.7 kilowatt system which provides me with 9,600 kilowatt hours, maybe 9,700, but that system was able to offset 96% of my electricity at my house. And so most homeowners, it's hard to get to 100% with a lot of homeowners. Solar Energy World, my company I work for, we have solar all over our roof. We're able to provide 60% of the power. So you kind of get what you get and you don't get upset. Just because you have a roof doesn't mean all the roofs are great for solar. So we'll try to use as many panels as we can use in productive areas. I don't want to mount a bunch of panels facing due north and get very little production out of those panels. So, you know, you
Right.
can't always get that 100% coverage.
I've seen, as I was scrolling through earlier, I saw about 3 or 4 questions regarding the roof. It's a given. If you're thinking about solar, doesn't matter if you are the association or the homeowner, and you think you're going to need a new roof, get the roof done before you put the panels up.
I did. I put on a new roof. And why did I put on a new roof? My house was built in 1971. It's the same age as I am. And the roof was 25 years old.
Yeah,
And
you definitely do not want to put the solar panels down and then have to come back a year later and put the new roof on.
yes,
Not a
because
good
there is
thing.
an expense to remove the panels and put them back on.
Oh yeah.
And so the one nice thing is we have a parent company that's a master roofer. So we look to help customers get a roof at cost. It's still expensive. My roof was $10,000. And then on my roof, I needed 45 sheets of plywood because the last roof exchange was done 25 years ago. I moved in the house 10 years ago and there was a lot of rotten wood underneath there. So, but I went from a musty smelling house to a relatively new smelling house. And now my roof isn't leaking in my master bedroom anymore. So
Cool. I know you'll be talking about this later, but there was a question regarding multi-level buildings. I know you can do it. They're asking, would you be able to put the arrays on different styles of roof? That would be a given. Let's
Mark?
see. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, you may just want to note that there are some townhouses in the county that I've seen that have wood shake or cedar shake
Yeah,
shingles.
you're not gonna be able to do that one. Now, if they switch it to the new version of the what do you call it? The fake shake, the new one that's out, where it is fiberglass, synthetic shake, that is approved. I'm trying to think of the name of it. It is fire rated and everything else, so you can do that. It's not the wooden shake. You can't put it over the wooden shake.
correct. You cannot. And clay roofs, there's a little bit, you know, some companies
Yeah.
can. And slate, we don't do on slate or clay roofs.
Right.
And Paul, maybe Cindy or Paul, I'm sorry, Mark, sorry. Maybe Cindy or Paul could just, you know, we are talking to HOA owners here, then that you've had experience making some of these installs in those communities, you know, any things that, you know, those HOA bylaws might have directed you to have to think about as you did those installs, and, you know, so that, you know, sort of, you know, you had mentioned that the bylaws are something to consider. Where might have been an instance or two where those influenced how either the design happened or the installation? Just curious if you have an item or two.
The biggest thing is get an application in. Nobody can deny putting them in. That's a given. That's a law. But you can get grief if you do not fill out the app. The app still has to be approved. And there are associations that I am aware of that have in their governing docs where the conduit can be placed. Can't say anything about where the array is, but they can direct how to cover the conduit. So you want to make sure you're right. So absolutely, if you're going to do it, talk to your board, get the application filled out beforehand. I'm not, yeah, I'm with you there, Paul. I'm not saying
Mark.
company, and I can tell you, I've been on the commission now going into the 6th year. I've never heard a complaint on your company. I can tell you I've heard them on a couple of the others. And the biggest thing is the salesman says, you don't need the application, sign here. and within about 4 weeks, they're in front of us, and they're going to have a problem.
Yeah, and it's just doing it the right way, and
Right.
that's when I left the teaching field, and part of the reason I had to leave being a teacher is my son ready to go to college, and it's hard to live in Montgomery County on 2 teacher salaries, and so we need to make a career change, but we want to work with homeowners and we want to help homeowners, but it's doing things the right way. And Solar Energy World, I chose them because they said they're going to do things the right way. They said they're people of integrity. And that's why I waited 6 months in. And then 6 months in, I asked my wife, would you like to go solar? Once they said they were who they said they were and did everything they said they were, and I had proof, then I asked my wife and she still said no. And then you met her when she was ready. And that's the goal. So meet the homeowner when they're ready and do things. Cindy, you're in.
Yeah,
Oh,
let
yeah.
me just add something there, Mark.
Mhm.
Just in case some of the listeners um, don't know what conduit means. So let's go over. So conduit is basically the large silver pipe that they have to install from the roof down to your meter. So one thing to think about is, where is my meter, right? Is the meter on the front of the house? If so, they either have to go through the inside of your house, through the wall, which Paul says they do all the time now at Solar Energy World. Wonderful. Some installers don't. Some installers might have to go on the outside of your house. So that's one thing to check in your bylaws. Do you allow conduit on the front of the house? If the meter's on the front, you got to figure out how to get from A to B. The
Right.
inverter usually we can put in the back, but just remember, we have to go up, down, and back up and down. I'm talking about to the roof, to the inverter, back up, down to the meter. So it's very easy if you can put all of the equipment right by the meter, but if that's in front of your house, just think about that.
And
One
make
thing
sure
there.
you put it in writing
Mhm.
so that everyone knows what everybody's going to do, because what one person tells you isn't necessarily what's going to happen in all cases. Not saying that here.
And I have a customer right now in Virginia. And Virginia's bylaws are a little stricter than Maryland's right now. But we had to show substantial reduction. And so we had done our sun eyes and they gave us an actual production. And we went from the front panels producing 378 kilowatt hours each to the back ones producing 265 kilowatt hours each. And so the panel cost was what the panel cost. And that's a substantial reduction. And so we're showing that there is a need to have them on the front of this house, not the back, but we're backing it up with science, not just an opinion.
Okay, thanks. There's a question about if you can put the panels in a retention pond. I'm going to go out on a limb and say no. Generally, the retention pond is owned by the county. It was deeded over to the county. We're talking about a wet pond or a dry pond. You maintain it, but it's owned by the county. You can't put anything in there. It's just like if it is a wetland or an easement or a forestry land, you can't do that. And then also, if it's going to go on common, there are certain restrictions that have to be followed. So we can talk more about that when we talk with associations, but I don't think it's going to happen. The county would give you some leeway, possibly on the outskirts of it, but not in the pond.
You're going to be hard pressed to find an installer that wants to install in the pond.
Right. Again, we'll be talking about multifamily dwelling in the next upcoming seminar. Let's see. Bill, I think we answered your question. You were talking about putting a new roof on. Yeah, you want to do that before, and they'll measure your roof to see what size you can put up there, and then if it's feasible to in fact install based on the size of the townhouse. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. there's a question about what's the cost of the system. That's going to depend on what you're getting and the size of the array.
I've got a great answer for that one.
Go ahead.
My dad's an identical twin. They look exactly alike. But if one twin is in a rock band and has really long hair down to their waist, the house can look identical. So one uses a lot of hair product. The other one's in the Marine Corps with very short hair. No hair product really necessary, just a bar of soap. So houses can look identical until you're with the homeowner. You don't know what their power usage is. All design is based on their house. And even though the neighbor only has 12 panels, you may need 40 because you have your lights on all the time and use every device in your house all at the same time.
Right.
I'm going to put Paul's contact information back up just for a moment. If anyone wants to take a screen share, if they've got to run, I'll put it back up. Okay, go ahead. Go ahead, Mark.
All right. Mr. Silverman, I sent you a note in the question and answer. We've noted your email regarding a question about your building itself. It's going to depend on the building and what the layout of the building is. And I think Paul would need to come look at it to find out if it's feasible and if they can do it, you know, because of the size of the building and how the building's laid out and what the roofage is like. So I have the email, I have your info, and I'm going to forward that to him when we're done tonight, and then he can touch base with you. Now, there's a question regarding prohibition of the HOA control for the solar. Maryland, basically the HOA cannot dictate what you can do on your roof. They can dictate in common area. There are certain stipulations to it. They recommend that if you can go on the roof first, you can. Some of the association bylaws can dictate certain things based on what you're doing. Like if you are overkilling it. I've seen some where they say if you're covering up, 90% of your roof, and then you want to put another 30 arrays in the backyard, we can have a problem. You'd have to screen it in with something so that it's not intrusive. But they can't tell you, no, you can't. But they have upheld where you can say where the placement of the conduit is. And there is a recent appeal right now. Thanks, Mr. Judson. I appreciate you stopping by. There is a case on appeal currently that could do some changes. We'll see what happens. When we do the webinar on the multifamily, we'll send out an e-blast to everyone that's on our list to let them know what's going on, so that we'll give you at least 3 weeks heads up on it. Okay. I'm a board member of an HOA. I'd like to see what we can do for the community. However, I have solar installed at my residency by Solar City, now Tesla. They own the system. I pay for the electricity. So Cindy might be able to tell me if it's possible to get out of a 20-year contract to switch to solar energy world, if there would be any advantage over Tesla. And not touching that one.
That's all you, Cindy.
You are renting your system, so that means that you either have a PPA or a lease. Options for getting out of either of those include paying off the remainder of what you owe. So you can find out what you've paid so far and what remaining payments you have and pay those off. So that's a sum you want to look at and see how far you are into your payments. I know some people that were installed 10 years ago, but you may have been installed 3 or 4 years ago. For a PPA contract, there is usually a way to buy off the rest of the system if you're going to sell your home, but it doesn't sound like that's the situation with you. What I would recommend that you do is get a copy of your contract and read it. Unfortunately, those are not super fun to read contracts,
Okay.
but you want to know your options.
Okay, and somebody's asking for a clarification. When you were discussing the SRECs, they were assuming that you meant per 1,000 kilowatt hour, not per 1,000 kilowatts.
Correct.
Okay, just making sure.
Thank
Okay,
you.
and Robert also wants to pass along, since this call has many participants, I'd recommend to mention the Maryland Energy Storage Income Tax Credit. It's 30% Maryland tax credit for total cost of battery storage installation on top of the federal tax credit for battery installation. And he has the website here, Energy Maryland Gov. If anybody wants it, we can post it up here.
Wonderful point. Mhm.
Yeah. Thank you for that, Robert. We appreciate it. Is there an economy of scale for an association coordinating several solar installs in one community? In other words, you're going to get a break if you bring in more people.
So Paul, I don't know if you want to touch on the co-op right now. Or if Tom, if you wanted to grab that one.
So the co-op is wrapping up. They do it every summer.
Mhm.
And so if I'm accurate, I believe Solar Energy World has won it the last 4 years running. I may be wrong, but that's what I believe is accurate. So forgive me, to err is to be human, and I make lots of errors, and my wife would tell you I do as well. But yeah, there is an extra incentive where you can get the system at a cheaper price when you buy in a group with a co-op. And so generally the way it works is I try when I meet with a homeowner to give them my very best price. I'm not a salesman. I'll even tell you everybody has 8 great salesmen, which I am not. I'm just trying to give you the best price because I really want people to go solar, and I try to make it as affordable as possible for all my homeowners because that's just better for the environment, it's better for them, it's better for my business. So you try to do things the right by all your homeowners. But the co-op is an advantage. It's wrapped up for this year. I think it rolls out next year around July. I may be wrong, but and the nice thing about installing right now or moving forward in the next month is you actually get to utilize that. So a lot of the co-op members who I have signed up, they're going to be installed right around January, and then they're going to have to wait a couple months for that real peak energy to kick in. So yeah, it's just timing is everything. You might be able to save a little, but you will wait longer and you'll pay another year's worth of bills.
Okay. Somebody's asking about charging stations for electric cars. Tom, are we still doing the rebate on that? The grant, is that still going for the electric car charging station?
So that's a state rebate that's available for the EV charging stations. Our financing program that Cindy had gone through would allow for coverage of the homeowner who might want to install that EV charging station, and they could roll that into the same loan that they might be doing on the solar if they do it at the same time. But the rebate is one that's a state provided one on EV charging stations.
Lana, if you want to touch base with Green Bank on that, they might be able to assist you. And also, if not, Department of Environmental Protection was also doing some things. Stan Edwards might be able to help you over there. Shoot us an email if you need some assistance there.
Yeah, shoot Cindy, and you can include Cindy. She can
Yeah.
help sort of track that down. We're happy to help on that front.
Cool, thanks.
So there is an EV charger rebate available. It's on a rolling basis for the fiscal year. So basically, you would just go to energy.maryland.gov, and you can learn more about the availability and how to sign up. But yep, feel free to reach out
Okay.
to us as well. Thanks. Mark.
And somebody wants to know ballpark, if they have to replace their roof, what's it going to cost to pull the panels to put the roof back on?
Cindy, I'll let you go first, and then I'll tell them our standard at Solar Energy World, because I don't know what Tesla did or Ipsen. So.
Right. So there are some customers with Solar City contracts that have the price built in, and it was very low. So Solar City realized that the price that they quoted in their contracts, $500, was way below what it actually cost. So one really good question is, how much will it cost, if I wait, and should I, is it worth the savings to put it on now? So it's hard to determine how much roofing materials are going to cost in the future, how much the price of labor is going to be. But what the great installers normally do is they tell you that they will charge you a competitive price. So they'll beat any price around, but a reasonable rate to do that work at whatever the going rate is at that time. Go ahead, Paul.
Okay. So for no, and that's fair. And there's part of the reason Solar City got bought out by Tesla, because they gave away a lot of things for really great deals, and they may not be there for the life of the project, and that can be hard. And so our company, we are not, definitely may not be the cheapest for this. Right now, the going rate for our company to take off a panel and reinstall, it's about $150 per panel to take off and reinstall a system. So on my house, I'm not a mathematician, so I'm going to get out my calculator. 29 panels, all clear, 29 times 150. So had I waited, I would have paid $4,350 to have my system removed and reinstalled so that it's operational. And that's the big thing too. You can hire anybody to remove them, but will they actually be able to reinstall it and reinstall it so they're not damaging your roof? Yeah, this guy's going to do it for $1,500. Well, that's great, but he also left a bunch of holes in your house and it's leaking. And so
Key is inspect it while you're up there measuring.
Paul, is that in your contract, that price?
We say that's what the going rate is today, and
Okay,
obviously,
okay.
we always, when we send somebody out to do a site survey, our assessment, we want to make sure that there's at least 10 years on the roof, and it's just a pass or fail with our company. So
Okay.
if there's only 3 years left on your roof, as we estimate, we're not looking to install that, and we really want a new roof. And so we're going to be very transparent about that. And we welcome them to get quotes from other roofers too, because we're just doing it as a service. It's not mandatory that they use our parent roofing company. We just have that ability. And it's a 50-year lifetime roof. So it's.
Mark, I do want to mention real quick something important, that if you already have a solar system and you're trying to find somebody to remove it and replace it, you just want to check and make sure that having another party do that work doesn't void the warranty. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm. Now Tesla is taking over all of Solar City's contracts, so there is a company available now. How easy they are to contact, I'm not going to on that one. Go ahead.
Paul, will you go to Frederick?
Yes, we do.
Okay, there's your answer, Marie. Is there any problems with a trust ownership of the home in order to do a contract? If the home is in trust, if you want to put solar on it, legal wise?
It can be a little tricky on a power purchase agreement, but on a purchase, I don't believe we have any issues with that.
As long as somebody's got a power of attorney.
Yeah, I mean, and even on a power purchase agreement, as long as they have a copy of the trust, then generally we can do that. So
okay,
Cindy, what do you have on that?
So I was just going to mention that normally the lender wants to see some proof. So as long as they have documentation, power of attorney in order, it might take a little bit longer for the lender to review it for financing, but it shouldn't be a problem, Tom, unless you wanted to correct me if I'm wrong.
Right, and the lender is taking a UCC filing for security on the system itself on the roof, so they're not looking to put a new lien on the property. So It's about the borrower and the system and being able to place the lien on the system, and that the trust doesn't get in the way of making that action.
Yep. And if they're going to own the system, just make sure that check with your accountant for the trust to see if you're eligible for any incentives. Being that it's in a trust, it may have some special qualifications.
Mark, I did want to say one thing to our Frederick customer. Green Bank unfortunately does not go out there.
Oh, yeah. She's aware of that.
Yeah, and I just want to make that clear because they have some great financing options. So, I just want all homeowners to, I'm transparent to my own fault.
Okay. There's a question about what would the roof area requirement be to generate a 9 kilowatt system?
So 9 kilowatts. Okay, give me a second. Cindy,
I don't have my design software any longer. So
right,
I'm sure you're able to design systems.
Yeah, I'm able to design systems, but I'm not that mathematician guy. I use my design software. Divided by 320 is our standard panel today. 9 kilowatt. So that's a 9,000 system divided by 320. So I need 28 panels.
Okay.
And it depends on, I assume this is Montgomery County?
Yeah, I believe so.
Okay.
So I would say it'd be the front and the back of a house like this. 25 panels.
Yeah.
Maybe
28,
depending
28.
upon. Yeah. But maybe not if they're. You have to think about the roof vents.
And Montgomery County does have fire lanes now, so we wouldn't be able to go right up to the ridge, and we'd have a 3-foot setback on one of the rakes. On the side. Rake means one of the sides. So a break at the ridge and a break on the side. So my system was done before the fire codes went in, so we went right up to the ridge on my house.
Matt, you heard that? Okay. Marie, yes, you can add the batteries. A sump pump to keep the basement dry is critical. Is there a way to run a sump pump when the grid goes out without spending a huge cost?
Yes.
Yeah,
go to Home Depot.
They make them. Go to Home Depot and they make a solar battery charger for the sump pump.
Yes. And that's
so like $99.95. I had one on my other house.
Bingo.
How does the solar installation affect the life expectancy of the roof?
So Paul, does the solar installation increase the lifespan of a roof?
It does, in my opinion, because
sun's not going to be beaten down on the
sun
asphalt.
Isn't beating on it. The rain isn't. All the damage is taking place to the solar, and so it extends the life underneath that part. And generally, it's on your southernmost roof, so it's taking all the beating, and it's actually going to cool your attic space a little bit because it's putting an umbrella 4 inches above the roof, so it ventilates out the top and the bottom, and helps it cool a little bit, so it doesn't heat up as much.
Okay, I've got a question on here I'm not sure about. It's saying, what is the maximum size of a 3-story unit that is financially feasible? Or I'm sorry, the minimum size.
I assume they're talking about a 3-level townhouse.
Yeah,
So the smallest system generally we install is 12 panels. And that's with some arm twisting.
Yeah, and that one, I don't even know if it would be feasible to do.
3.84 kilowatt systems. And it just depends on the homeowner because you get to offset. We're going to offset some part of that proportion of power. And the system will pay for itself. So we're not going to be able to do 100% of your system, but we will offset that power. And so when you don't have solar, you're in a life sentence with Pepco or Potomac Edison for that amount of power.
I can answer this one. Can solar panels be installed on a single family home roof and the roof of a garage? Yes.
And we would love to talk to you. As long as you're not buried in Sherwood Forest.
No, as long as they're not cedar or Slate, you're not in trouble. Everything will
Right.
be fine.
Any questions on can I get solar on my roof? Just reach out. Just reach out. We'll take a
Yeah,
look.
a lot of the other ones now we're talking about the association. You know, what can I do as far as my association is concerned? If I've missed something, somebody please go into the Q&A. I've gone all the way through it now. If you're, the question, I see one in here, what would happen if I sell my home? That all depends on if you have a lease agreement or if you're buying them, you know, depending on, you know, what's up
Mark,
there now.
I'll take that one real quick.
Okay.
I live in Montgomery County. My youngest son is at Sherwood High School. My eldest son is out at Notre Dame. So I need to, you know, do solar to help pay for Notre Dame so his loans aren't too huge. But when my youngest son graduates, if he ended up at Notre Dame, I think my wife may want to move out to Illinois. So I'm going to sell my house with a power purchase agreement. And the one we have, we guarantee it'll transfer over to the next home buyer. But if not, you do have the ability to buy it and then sell it with the solar in as, you know, you want to market it as a green home. And so according to Zillow, homes sell 20% faster with solar and for 4% more. So you'll get that money back dollar for dollar.
Absolutely. And the council is also looking at legislation to make sure you can sell it.
Winning. Now, my youngest son might end up at Maryland and here we'll stay. And that's fine because as far as my wife's
and
concerned,
get your third mortgage.
That's right. She's considered this the center of her universe for, you know, 47 years. So I don't want to deviate her from her center of her universe.
Mark, I see a question here. My understanding is that homeowners are limited to some percentage of the previous year's electricity usage. That they wanted to touch on that. So, yep, that is true. There is a maximum. However, there are exceptions. So normally it's 100% of the previous 12 months. Paul, definitely correct me if I'm wrong, but I'll go ahead and continue. So, yep, 100% of the previous 12 months usage. Unless there's some reason that you might need to ask for up to 200%. For example, if you're getting an electric vehicle, if you're going to finish your basement and rent it out, or you're going to get a pool or hot tub or something like that, that would increase your electricity usage. And then the utility will ask you to submit a load calculation form to go over how much you might be using. And usually they will approve it. Paul, you want to add that anything on there?
Yes, and yes. And so yes, you're getting an Eevee, you're getting an electric vehicle, you're getting a Tesla. So yeah, we can design the system bigger for that. You're putting in a pool. Pools use a ton of energy. Hot tubs use a ton of energy. One of my biggest houses ever was a single gentleman, retired Air Force. I thanked him for his service, but he had 3 koi ponds. And he's using 30,000 kilowatt hours. My family of 4, we use 9,600. Now, we were on a fixed income. So when Pepco raised rates, our thermostat went from 78 degrees to 82. In the winter, we went from 68 to 62. So in the summer, we wear pretty much nothing. In the winter, we wear everything. It's an old house. So, you know, it depends on the homeowner. But yes, we can help you. And yes, we can design it slightly bigger. And we are happy to fill out the paperwork and help you do those load calculations.
Hey, I have 2 of them for you. First one is, what is the average size of a panel? And secondly is, do you have to clean them?
3.5 by 5 feet roughly per panel, and they vary on the size of the wattage. So, you know, we'll talk panel by panel. And Maryland is the best place in the world because we get this thing called rain and snow, and those are
Right.
solar cleaning days. And so if you're in Nevada and you don't get rain or snow, then you need to get a nice gentle dusting tool to dust them off. But we don't want you power spraying them or power washing them because that'll damage them. Yeah, but that's the nice thing about the
So
rain
when I
and
see
snow.
my neighbor up there with a power washer,
No.
I can continue to laugh.
I hope it's not one of my systems because.
No, it's not.
Cindy, do you have anything on that?
I mean, I've seen some dirty solar systems, actually. So if you can get your garden hose you know, and tap half of it and get the water up there, and you want to rinse your panels off, more power to you. You'll increase your efficiency. If the rain isn't cleaning them enough,
Yeah.
go ahead and wash them off.
And
Just
so
don't climb up on the roof, please.
yeah, don't fall off the roof, don't climb up on the roof. And one of the things I always love to say is, as this teacher who drove from here to Prince George's County to teach all the time, I had a 2013 Nissan Altima, which I'm still driving with 180,000 miles. That car never got washed. It didn't have tinted windows. And when I got in that car every spring, when all the pollen was out, my car was still super hot. So even with all that green coat of pollen all over the car, it still heats up. So, and even on cloudy days, your system's going to produce some energy. So, you know, it's not the end of the world, people. We're
I'm gonna
in
figure
this
out what
together.
y'all can do to help me in the winter.
Move
You're
to
not all
Florida?
electric, I guess.
No, I went from 100 amp to a 200 amp to a 400 amp service, and my electric bill is hell in the winter.
Yes.
Yeah, what
Yeah.
are you doing over there, Mark? Maybe unplug a couple things.
Christmas.
Oh, Christmas lights. Okay, I got you. Yes. And a koi pond?
No,
Okay.
one of my air units is gas, so that doesn't do a whole lot. I know John's seen it, so he's laughing.
The lights or the
The lights. But no,
well, you're brightening
seriously.
your neighborhood. Did you leave them
No,
up
I'm
during
brightening
COVID?
the state.
Very good.
Oh, did you see they're selling now at the hardware stores the light that projects onto your house, and you can even get it where it moves around. I bet you that'll save you a
Had
couple
them
bucks.
been there.
Well, old
But
news.
no, I need to do something.
Griswolds.
I seriously need to talk to you.
Okay. Well, I'd love to help you.
I'd love to see my meter spinning the other way.
We
Problem
can
is
produce.
I've got a mansard roof. That's my problem.
Oh.
On half the house anyway.
How much do you have? It over 2 acres? Do you have land?
It's about 3/4, but it's treed in the back.
Oh, well.
And
That
the
yeah.
main house is mansard, and then I've got a regular like 912 on part, and then 912 the other way. It's a Dutch Colonial.
Hey, Mark, we have a few more questions.
Yeah, I'm heading back to it. But yeah, I need to see you. Where'd they go?
For your answers.
Yeah, I gotta go down to the bottom. Hang on.
So the one about the PPA escalation, I can take that one if you want, or at least
Yeah,
start it
if you
off.
want to do that one while I'm looking for the other one. Here it is. Okay, go
Okay.
ahead.
Okay. So PPAs and escalations, Paul, is the next topic.
Okay.
So what I'll just let you know, and Paul, you can always jump in.
Yep.
I'll start us off. So PPAs usually have the option for escalation. You can choose to have a rate with an escalator or without. So definitely check with your solar representative on the availability of one that does not escalate. If you're already locked into a PPA with an escalation rate, yes, it will continue to raise at that contracted rate. Normally it's set to be below the amount that the utilities have been escalating. So if the utilities are not escalating at that rate that it was projected to, that's not what it was designed to do, but it is according to your contract. And
He answered. He had another question below it.
Yep. So is net metering at risk of being terminated? So I would say in the state of Maryland, we are not at a high risk of having net metering get terminated. We can't say that we won't. We can't predict that. We're not the utility commission, but I would say that if you were to look at the amount of risk throughout all the states, Maryland is more of a green state. We have a lower amount of risk. And then panel degradation. So the panels do they do go down in efficiency. I don't know why I couldn't say it. Thanks, Paul.
That's all right.
About 0.5% a year. Naturally, they go down, but there are solar systems from the 50s, 60s, and 70s that are still pumping electricity out. No reason not to use them, right?
Yep.
Just not as much as they used to. So go ahead, Paul, take it away.
Okay. So on a power,
I'm sorry, Paul, did y'all see the second one? He's got another question below.
So I can't see the questions, but
Oh,
I'll answer.
Pepco.
Okay.
It's
Oh,
about
excellent.
Pepco charging the additional fee.
So they do charge a fee, and most installers, if not all, will pay for that for you, and
Okay. Sorry.
include that in your
Go ahead, Paul.
Which additional fee are we talking about?
A net meter.
the meter swap, interconnection fees.
Okay. So on my bill, I still pay $8.50 to be tied to the grid. And that's something I talk to all my homeowners about. And I would rather be tied to the grid than have to buy 7 or 8 batteries to, be self-sustained and then not be able to use the same power that my kids want to use on Saturday night. But as far as a power purchase agreement, almost 95% of all the companies are going to do a 2.9% rate to begin with. Solar Energy World, we do have the ability to do a 1.9, and we also have the ability to do a 0% where we lock you. Just know when you're buying, when you lower rates, like in mortgages, when you lower a rate, there's a price with it. So I can lock you at a lower rate on a 2.9% escalator, which is less than the inflation standard. And there may be a year where there's no inflation on electricity, but then there's a year where Pepco raises your rate 12%. So in one year, they may, do a lot more. So the best thing about the 2.9% is generally it's definitely below inflation. We do have the ability to do the 1.9%. Now you went a whole percentage point lower. Well, we're not going to be able to get you as cheap of a price per watt. And then if you want to lock at 0%, and I'm happy to show all my customers the 2.9, the 1.9, and the 0. And, it's to meet the homeowner's needs. And so just if you lock at that 0 where it never increases, you're going to pay a slightly higher rate. You're not going to get it as cheap at the 2.9. The 0% will save you the greatest in the lifetime. The 2.9 will save you the greatest in the first 7 years. So if I'm in my house for 2 years, which one do you think Mr. Wicks chose for his family? 2.9. And, then I'm hoping that at the end, if we're still here and we look like we're staying for the long haul, then I'm going to say, I want to sell my house. Give me an estimate from a third party of what it costs to buy it out, and I just pay for it. And if I do sell my house, then I do. And if I just keep my house with the purchase panels, and that's the agreement that I try to get all my homeowners on, because it protects the homeowner. It gives them the greatest savings right out the get-go, and then they can have their money and use it for college, because I was a broke teacher and I have to do college now.
Okay. Robert, just to do a shout out to you. I see your question about Clarksburg. Absolutely. We are going to organize a multifamily condo and HOA event so that we can talk about the association, and absolutely we will have a segment on the car charging stations and information on how to get involved in it. And we'll probably partner in with the folks from environmental protection too, because they've got some things that they can probably bring to the table to help you with some other things up there. So it'll, there'll be a couple more on the panel. I think,
Mark,
Tom, you've worked with them, haven't you? Tom, you there?
I'm sorry, I was reading another question,
Oh,
Mark.
sorry. You've been with, you've worked with Stan a couple times, haven't you?
Stan
Edwards? Yeah.
Oh yeah, Stan is on our board. He's our advisory.
Yeah,
member of our
I'm
board,
thinking about the next one, bringing Stan in when we do the multifamily.
Yeah, I know that there's been talk about trying to bring that aspect in, and what happens with the water conservation, water.
Yeah, and bring all of it together for the associations and kind of get it all: solar, water conservation. We can talk about the community lighting, the whole 9 yards.
Yeah, we should talk about that.
Yeah.
The subjects can get a little convoluted, so think about how best to do it to make sure it feels clean and clear. But yeah, definitely.
Mark, I do want to jump in really quickly on net metering.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that I didn't talk about, and I'm sorry, folks, because many had jumped off. There is limited room on the grid. So I did have a homeowner through the co-op last year who wanted 30 panels, but getting her tied to the grid, her transformer actually only had room for 12 panels. So we couldn't do the full size system on our house. And she was very distraught that I didn't tell her about this. And that was my first homeowner who I didn't tell about that, or had a problem with it. So I've added that, and I make sure I tell everybody about interconnection. And just because we sign up for an agreement doesn't mean we can actually get you installed with that panel until we get you interconnection. So if you did 30 panels, the grid has to have capacity. And up in Clarksburg, a lot of the grids are hitting capacity very quickly because many people are going solar. So if you're thinking about solar, it's always better to go and get it before the transformer's full, because Pepco would love to put in a new transformer, but it could cost you anywhere from $20,000 to $50,000 to put a new transformer on their grid for their system. But other than that, we want to get it done sooner than later before your grid is shut. And so when I got my own panels, I was downstairs watching NCIS with the family, and my phone goes boop, and I look at it and then I start smiling. My wife goes, "Why are you cheesing?" I said, "We just got our interconnection for our 29 panels and we're going to save." And she goes, "Was it ever in any doubt?" And I said, "Yes, our neighbor right across the street has panels. We have panels." And as soon as you get those slots reserved on the grid, no one gets to take your plane ticket from you. Those are your slots for your installation. So your neighbors don't actually have it installed for the grid to be actually full. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. I've got the final two questions for you. One is, what is a hybrid system? And then the final one is, there is a growing concern about solar e-waste. What do you do with your used panels when you remove them? Putting you on the spot.
Okay.
Paul, it sounds like those are both for you.
Okay. So the first question, give me the first one.
Okay. First one is, what is a hybrid system?
Okay. So I never call them hybrid, but I assume that you're running half on solar and half on your current electricity. So that's a hybrid, I would assume, but it depends on who you've met with. And as far as waste, a growing concern. So the first solar array was installed at the Air Force Base in Georgia in the 1950s. And those panels are still operating at 60% of their original use. So as long as you don't waste them and you can use them, and they're gonna, so when I install a system, I'm really planning my homeowner to keep it on their roof for 50 plus years, and it's already paid for. So why would they throw it away when it's still providing power?
If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Exactly. So my 2013 Nissan Altima, 180,000 miles. It was only warranted for 5 years, 60,000 miles. Well, I didn't throw it away. The car that it replaced was a 95 F-150, and I traded that one in for $500 to put towards my Altima. I drove it until it exploded. I want your panels to stay on your house as long as they're producing energy for you and your family. So but I don't know what happens with the old waste. I can reach out to my vice president of sales and see what happens with some. I'm sure some of them get repurposed, because there's lots of people who today's 200-watt panels would greatly provide a lot of energy to third world countries. And third world countries tend to be in very sunny places with lots of solar power. And so, there's great resources. So
Someplace up in Alaska.
well, that's great in the summertime, though. You get 24 hours of sun. So Germany has the highest per capita of solar use in the world, and they are very north from where we are. Okay, Cindy.
Yeah, for the question about a hybrid system, I wasn't sure what they meant, but Paul, the way that you're interpreting it, that they are also using electricity from the grid. So I just want to specify that in the state of Maryland and in most of the 50 states of the continental US, you have to be connected to the grid. So you're always going to be able to pull from the grid, and you want to be able to pull from the grid if you want to have a huge party with DJs and hot tubs and things like that. You want to be able to have that electricity.
I was thinking it was going to be like, I'm sorry, like solar gas, solar water,
Oh, like solar water heater.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Solar water heaters will impede your ability to have solar panels to provide that energy. So you just have to choose which one you want to use, because it's going to take where the solar panels are to give, where your solar water heaters are. Yeah. And so, yeah. You try to
But
make the homeowner.
everyone's going to need to still be connected to the grid. And when you're connected to the grid, you do pay that customer charge that Paul is mentioning. So it's a good thing to know. You'll always get a bill with at least your customer charge, although depending upon the amount of solar that you get, you may be able to reduce it and even get credits like Paul gets.
Okay.
And I pay that fee right now before I had solar. It's on your bill. Everything on your electric bill on page 2 is the number of watts times a tax. And then there's an $8 fee that everybody pays right now with Pepco. And then there's a 32-cent fee that everybody pays with Pepco, regardless if you have solar or not. So you're paying the fee just to be connected to the grid. And in order to get a mortgage, you have to be connected to the grid. In order to have homeowners insurance, you got to be connected to the grid. I mean, so you're going to need to be connected to the grid anyways, even if you're off the grid, unless you built a log cabin, you own the cabin, you own the land, and you're not insured. You're just, totally off the grid.
So someone just asked, what if you have a backup generator? So that's a great question. Yep, that was John. Thank you, John. You can have a generator with a solar system. The tricky part is if you want to have a backup battery with a generator. Now there is a new technology that they're working out in order to put the battery upstream of the generator. So you're going to have to talk to your installer about that. They don't always give you an upfront price for how much it's going to cost to install your batteries because it depends upon the way that your house is wired. But it is possible. Check with your installer just to be sure.
Bingo.
Okay.
And gas generators are great. I have a homeowner in Virginia. She's a widower, and she's just had her generator installed, and our solar's going in next.
I got a 24 kW.
Very good. I've got a candle. I've got candles and blankets.
With that, I want to take a moment and thank everybody, especially John for helping field the questions. John is our Vice Chair of Education and Outreach. Thank the panel. And remember that we'll have this posted by Friday up on the webinar section of the training. And we've got 2 more webinars coming, not in addition to the one we're talking about now. And we also, just to give everybody an FYI, our decisions and orders search engine should be up and live within about the next 3 days. We did a test on it Friday and it ran fine. We just have to get a couple things signed off on by the county attorney. And once they do that, we're good to go. If you need us, remember, we are still working remotely. So please 311 or 240-777-0311. We will respond. We will get to you as fast as humanly possible. I absolutely cannot wait to get back into the office. I went in this morning to pick up something and it's a ghost town. So thank you everybody for participating. And Tom.
Mark, can I get 1 second?
Oh yeah, we're gonna let you all.
I just want to tell every homeowner, I want to meet your questions. I want to answer your emails. I want to get to your text messages. Know that my owners have me in 3 to 4 homes every day, Monday through Saturday. So I often call you to answer your questions, and I would love to set something up. Just know I am very busy, but I'll always get back to you immediately. And that's the one thing, because I don't want people thinking I'm blowing off their emails. I will answer the questions, and often I'll give them a call and talk to them personally, because I can do a 5-minute chat over a 45-minute email crowd.
And that reminds me, when y'all are done, I need to explain something to them that they've probably already seen, and I forgot to mention what Cindy and I set up. I forgot to tell them. Tom, Cindy?
I just want to say thank you, Mark, again, for letting us have this opportunity to talk to everybody, and we'll get that multifamily condominium one going, and within the next couple months, get that out there and schedule that with you, Mark, and get that broadcast. So a lot of interest there. We want to respond to that interest as well. And Cindy,
Okay.
great work. Good job. Go ahead. You can see.
Yeah, thanks everybody. Thanks John for all your work with the questions. I appreciate it. I like your shirt. Thanks Mark. And
Mhm.
yeah, we look forward to doing some more of these presentations. We'll keep going as long as you have topics that you want to talk about. So thanks.
Great. Our next one is going to be an update on COVID and what's going on, what we're doing. Please remember to, if you're a board, to check your email. We just released $2.5 million to assist HOAs in paying associations and paying your bills if your members can't pay their assessments. So please look in your inbox because you might have a survey in there. Also, if you haven't seen it yet, you've either answered it already or you're going to get it when you sign off. There are a couple of questions that are going to come to you asking you about solar and about tonight's webinar and what you're looking for as far as future webinars. Please take a couple minutes and answer it so we know what to do and how we can better assist you. We have 1,100 associations, and there's a good possibility that we're going to pick up another 500 in about the next 60 days. So we need to make sure that we know where we are. So if you could do that, I'd appreciate it. If you need to get me, it's mark.fine@montgomerycountymd.gov. I think we're all good.
Thank you
Good.
all.
Everybody good?
Paul,
Good
thank you.
night.
John, thank you. Appreciate
Have a
it.
Thanks
good
again,
night.
everybody.
Bye, Mark.
Thank you so
All
much.
right, y'all take care now.
Mark, I'll
Bye.
talk to you tomorrow.
Bye-bye.
Okay, night, everybody.
Good night,
Night.
everybody.